what do I mean by depression? Let me help you understand it. But yet, I want to assure you, I want to give you hope. I want to show you how you can uplift yourself or help others. The other way of an introduction is the sense of humor, or telling a story. Or you could, for example, tell them why you chose a particular topic and tell them why it is important for them. So there are a number of ways you could introduce it. You could start off with a quotation. For example, you say to them, life is a campaign and not a battle. It has its defeats and its victories. So my friends, it's clear from that quotation that life has its ups and downs, but it's about how you manage it. And I promise you, you can. The other one, you know, is very, very popular. There are many, many people, for example, who have a low self-esteem. And you could start off, nobody but nobody can make you feel small without your permission. Nobody. So it's all left to you. So in your speech, this is very important, that it is critical that when you have prepared your speech, write it all out, and then know exactly when you're going to show a gesture, know what you're going to emphasize. And if you're going to narrate or share a story, now the question is, should you stand or should you sit? I believe that you can move from standing to sitting. I have found the following, that when I'm standing and speaking in a dramatic way, when I'm emphasizing some points, now I want to change the tone. I want it to be sad. I want the audience to be psychologically prepared for it. So slowly, I would sit down. I put my head down like this and lift my head up. And I start. The change of tone, my gesture will help the audience, will help them to understand that something is changed. So when you want to write a great speech, there are 10 things that I would recommend. It must be insightful. It must be dramatic. Every member of the audience must feel as if you're addressing them. In your presentation, you're going to make sure you have eye contact. Make sure you have appropriate gestures. Make sure your speech has been well researched. Make sure that the speech gives them 3 or 4 takeaways. Make sure that you present your speech in a way that they will understand. Make sure in the end that when you prepare the speech itself, that you have some personal anecdotes that will make it authentic. And last but not least, if you can, have some humor. Too much of poignant things, too much of heightened emotion is heavy on the chest. Sometimes you got to lighten this. Sometimes I would begin, I say, you know, public speaking can be very daunting. And there was this particular person who was speaking for the first time, and everyone left the hall except this one individual who was sitting right in front. And so this person was so excited about it, and he said, you know what? I do not know how to thank this person, man, for staying there when everyone else is gone. So in his mind, as he was speaking, he says, you know what? I'm going to spend a few moments with him. I want to get to know him and show him that I appreciate his compassion, or I appreciate who he really is. So when the speech was over, he said to me, you know what, my name is so-and-so. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, you know, that you remained here right throughout my speech. But a question I want to ask you, what was about my speech that was so compelling that made you stay here right till the end? He says, well, you know what? To be honest with you, I'm only here because I'm the next speaker. You know what I'm saying? I'm only here because I am the next speaker. So this is a very, very important thing. Very, very critical that people, you know, you can use humor. You can use humor. And in that way, you're able to create some kind of laughter. And this is fundamental, right? Now, the other aspect is this, that you may say to yourself, you know what, the speech thing, what I'm doing really is a summary. The speech thing is, you know what, it's just to be too cumbersome, man. Too cumbersome. I promise you this, initially, it's going to be slow and deliberate, but you're going to learn. You listen to your own speech, tape it, videotape it, and get people to give you a feedback. And I promise you this, you have found yourself in many situations when you wanted to say something, but for fear of your peers, for fear that people might rebuff you, for fear they might belittle what you are saying, you kept quiet. Yet what you were going to say perhaps would have been the answer to some of the challenges that your colleagues or whatever were going through. And I want to speak a bit about, you know, how you can become more effective, right? The other way that you can be more effective is to make sure that you continually change your tone, you vary your tone, right? This is important. This is very, very important, right? Now, tell me, what are some things that you're going to make sure you mustn't do? Okay? Do not go unprepared. You cannot go unprepared for any speech, my friends. You cannot go unprepared. People have come to listen to you. They have sacrificed their time. So you've got to know your audience. You've got to know who your audience is. So you cannot go there without that kind of preparation. Preparation means going to the center a day or two before you speak to make sure that the mics are in place, to make sure that you are able to speak, you are comfortable there. And when you get there, be there early enough. Next thing, do not be apologetic. Do not say, you know what, hey, my friends, you know, I'm not a public speaker, but my father said I must speak here and whatnot, and you mustn't do that. Remember this, they say if you fake confidence, you would be confident. You would be confident. You know what, those of people who know me, and especially those that have been in school with me, and many of my teachers, if you were to ask them there, will Idris Khamisa ever be a motivational speaker? Do you think he'll travel the world and people will listen to him? Except for one or two who had faith in me. The majority would have said, no, not him. He's useless, right? So therefore, you do not undermine yourself, right? And please never learn your speech by heart and recite it, because there is no contact. Anyone can recite the speech. Understand what you are saying. Internalize it. Feel it. Feel it. If you say it was a quiet day, say it in that way. And if you say, oh, it was so emotional, I could see the pain. Say it that way. Do not mumble. And remember, one of the signs of nervousness is that you speak very, very quickly. So if you are slow and deliberate, it's better. But you mustn't speak so slowly that people begin to nod off, or speak in a monotone, or look down upon your listeners, or tell jokes that are off color. So there are many things, but these are some of the things that you have to bear in mind. It's very critical that you need to do that. So my friends, I am saying to you, if I were someone to ask me, right, what are some steps that need to be taken if you want to start? I would say to you is choose any topic that you love. The reason for that, then you speak with more passion, you will speak with more fervor, you will speak with greater excitement. You'll be authentic. And when you speak about it, you'll be able to share experiences, and people realize that you're not emotionally detached from your topic and you are far more engaging. Then what you could do is speak and play it or video record it or whatever, and get your friends, people that you love, to listen to you. And then look at how you can improve. What is it you need to improve? Is it your eye contact? Perhaps your hands are too tight here, too much on the side. There aren't any gestures. Perhaps I need to change my voice modulation. Perhaps even my dress, my attire. Now, for example, I'm wearing this hat here, right? I'm wearing this hat. Now, some of you may say, you know, and I remember, they may think, you know, why am I wearing this hat, you know? Why couldn't you wear an ordinary hat like others wear? Now, let me give a little background. It's important that sometimes these barriers to communication, I don't want someone to be there thinking about why he wore that hat and everything else. I want people to listen to what I've got to say. So I'll tell them, you know, my beloved friends, some years ago, I went to Kosovo to do a program there for Steve Yusuf Islam. He, at his offices that are managing orphans there, kids of war. And I went there and to do a program, and I saw all the brothers wearing this hat. And so I've been wearing it, and I like it. I really like it. And so this is me. So now, giving such an explanation, it makes a big difference, you see. How? Because you understand that sometimes some people can be very, very superficial, and they allow that to impact negatively on them, right? So what I'm saying to you is this. So you go out there and give the speech. And remember this, we are human, we are going to make mistakes. Now, when you are able to develop this art of public speaking, one beautiful thing that you'll also learn is the ability to listen to yourself as you are speaking, the ability to listen, the ability to engage. And you'll see, for example, as I'm speaking to you, I'm listening to every word I'm saying, every word I'm saying. So what I'm going to do now, right? Okay, let's go on for another 9 minutes or so. I'm going to take questions. I want to focus a bit on the prophetic methodology of speaking. And I must tell you this, that when we did research on the prophetic methodology, we have realized that the critical thing is that any great speaker, right? When he speaks, he will speak elegantly and he will speak with vibrancy. He will speak with excitement to increase the excitement. He will speak with emotion so that it engages the emotion. He would energize the people by speaking in a rhythmic way and building some kind of climax. He'll emphasize also by pausing confidently, and he'll also keep eye contact. And remember this, I'm going to say this here before I go on to the matter of the prophetic methodology. And I said this, some of it at the beginning. It is, and please, my beloved friends, you are like my family here. I want you to understand what the power of your voice is. The power of your voice will help others to understand. It can inspire, it can reassure, it can build trust, it can attract, it can motivate, it can encourage, energize, appreciate, care, influence, and it can build up confidence. Now, this is important. This is very, very important, because in the end, all of us want to leave a legacy. I spoke to you initially about why the introduction was important and how it needs to be dramatic. Your conclusion must also be dramatic. It can be dramatic when you end it off with a quotation. It can be dramatic when you ask a question. It can be dramatic when you tell a story. It can be dramatic when you recite a poem. It can be dramatic when you refer to the opening. Or you could even say, my beloved brothers and sisters. I would like each one of you to do three things. Three things. These three things are, number one, confront your true self. Number two, ask your sons and daughters, what is their perception about you? Last but not least, ask your spouse. In that way, you'll understand what are your strengths and what are your areas for development. By you doing that, what will happen? You will understand exactly what you need to do differently. It is not so much how the community looks at you, but rather how your family looks at you. The acid test is not who you are in the public arena, but who are you at home. And when you talk about Prophet Muhammad, you have to also speak about the Quran. And what does the Quran say about speaking? It says you must speak truthfully. You must speak with justice. You must speak moderately. You must speak positively. You must speak beautifully. You must speak gently. You must speak deeply. You must speak graciously. You must speak softly. You must speak effectively. You must speak humbly. You must speak bravely. You must speak without lying. So I want to just spend a few moments on the last sermon of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And if you looked at his public speaking style, it was brilliant. He understood his audience. He believed in his message and he spoke with conviction. He chose the most eloquent and precise language. He was able to convey profound meanings with simple expressions. They say his speech was so sweet and lucid that it sank into the depths of the hearts of those who were listening and captured their souls. His speech was clearly spaced so that anybody wishing to count the number of words would easily be able to do so. It was not so fast that it could not be retained, nor was it so slow that it would be difficult to make sense of what was being said. In fact, it was precise and perfect in every sense. So I want to just end it off here by asking you if there are any questions.
Okay, Idris, we have some questions. We have a direct question from Mohammed Afzal, so I'm going to unmute him right now. Mohammed Afzal, if you could please be ready. Please show your camera, please, as well, if you can. Yes,
I can't.
ask your question.
I can't hear.
Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, my beloved
Yeah,
brother?
alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khair. Shukran, Uncle Idris, again, once again, it's the third time. So we've been really blessed and it's been really good. The points I've made is like, I raised a question. You talked about something in the beginning. you know, ethos and pathos and logos. So I was just saying if you could shed some more light on that. And also, how much do you agree with this, that, you know, some speakers, some great public speakers like Dr. Zakir Naik and others, they say that in your speeches, what really matters is only 3% is your content and 97% is your presentation. Do you really agree with that? You know, your gesture, your posture, your eye contact, your voice modulation, etc. Or do you think it's a bit exaggerated?
Okay, two
Jazakallah khair.
things. Yeah, thank you for. Let me answer the second question first. Your gestures and body language are very, very important, very, very critical. The non-verbal language. In normal communication, up to 80% are the unspoken words. The unspoken words. And for example, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he engaged with anyone, he looked at them directly. When he shook hands with them, you understand, there's so many hadiths we know of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was purely in terms of his gestures. They're very, very important, something we need to practice. I can't say it's 97%, but my knowledge, I know, is around the 80%. Regarding the three aspects of ethos, logos, and pathos, ethos is your own credibility as an individual, right? In the end, if you are a credible individual who understands his subject, who has done the research, has written books on it, so that's your credibility. And that's important. That's very, very important, because the question people often ask, who is this person? Why should I listen to the speaker, right? And if you have got that credibility, it's very critical. That's the ethos. That takes about 10 to 15%, right? Now, logos is in terms of the research. How much of research have you done? Are you sharing new insights in what you are saying? Is your speech something that you gave before? Is it a repetition of what someone else might have said? Now, the important thing is this: you can talk about the same topic every now and then, but yet giving it a new perspective. And the last part, the most critical aspect of a speech, is the emotion, your ability to tell stories, your ability to inspire people to make the right kind of changes. Jazakumullah. Next question.
Yeah, we're going to go to Misha. Misha, if you could unmute and perhaps if you could kindly show your camera. Misha? Hello? Okay, we can move on to the next person. Ahmed Murchi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you, Idris?
Alhamdulillah, so good to see you, man. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Nice to see you with your hat.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be an incomplete look.
Okay, Ahmed. How can I help
No, I
you,
just
Ahmed?
wanted to make I just wanted to make a comment, not actually a question.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
one will talk more than you swim in life. Yet parents emphasize swimming lessons over speech lessons.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? The both are important. At least if you are swimming and you're drowning, at least you can cry out for help, you know.
It will be quite audible.
Yeah. Okay. With
That's
hand
another point.
gestures
Another thing you
also.
should emphasize in your talk. Anyway. Okay, take care, Idris.
Jazakumullah. Keep Allah bless you, my brother.
You too.
Right. Next.
Okay, the next person
Is on next.
Faisal Ayub. I'm just unmuting him. Faisal, you ready?
Yeah, hello, Idris.
Assalamu alaikum, Faisal. How are you, man?
Alhamdulillah. So good to hear you inspire us to speak even more, or to, to address the public when we doing our speeches. The one question I want to ask you is this. I always find that I prepare my speeches on paper.
Right. Yeah.
And then when I would go to the audience, and I guess you know what type of audience I address, because we do a lot of charitable work, right?
Yeah.
I always find that I would leave something out. And at the end of the speech, I'd say, oh, but I would have said this and I should have said that. But during my speech, look, my speeches normally don't go on for more than 30 minutes when I'm addressing the crowd. Normally, it would be at an international function or wherever. But how must I address that issue?
Okay, there are a few things here. Remember, if you have forgotten something, the audience doesn't know, only you know that, right? Okay, you know, so you mustn't be too harsh with yourself. The thing is, a critical thing for speakers is this, is to constantly rehearse your speech, number one. The other thing is this, if you feel there are some things I need to remember, develop also what you call an acronym. An acronym, a word of all the key statements you want to make. You understand? And then what you can also do is this, when you are giving your speech, it's very, very important to make sure that as you are going towards your conclusion, nothing is wrong if you were to unobtrusively look at your notes to make sure you have not left out anything. You understand? And that's very important. The other aspect is this, if you're forgetting some things on a regular basis, you could ask yourself, why am I forgetting this? What should I do differently, right? And do you write your full speech out, Faisal? Sorry, I can't hear you.
No, he's muted. So we'll have to move to the next question, please.
Okay, right.
It's Imtiaz Haq. Just hold on.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Sorry, I can't hear you.
So, brother, my question is that my question of speaking with sincerity and then going into maybe showing off or arrogance. So, how do you have, for example, with ikhlas and then going into like maybe showing off when we're publicly speaking?
Yeah, you see, this is a very important question. If you use speech for your vanity, for you to become famous, this is going to be a big curse on you. The purpose of speech is to invite people towards good, is not to make you into like a demigod. And therefore, the dua you make, or also your intention before your speech, during and after your speech. Now, I'll tell you, for example, the dua that I make. I say, Ya Allah, I'm about to speak to your audience. I'm not really fit to speak to them. I don't know them as you know them. But give me the words that so that I can impact on the hearts of each one of them. If my speech goes well, Ya Allah, I want no one to tell me. But if it does not go well, Ya Allah, give someone the courage to tell me so I can learn. So it's about that. It's your sincerity. So when you are planning your speech, of course, therefore I said, to overcome nervousness is to pray, pray, pray. And when you speak from your heart, when you deliver a speech from your heart, you can feel Allah's mercy in your heart, right? You know exactly, it's about intentionality. Okay, my brother.
Okay, we're going to Kaisa Hussein. Please unmute and show the camera.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam.
From Kaisa from Toronto.
Toronto, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Student from Al Kausar course of leadership.
Hey, you're upside down.
Oh, sorry, Sheikh. Yes.
Okay.
So, very happy to see you again, and great benefits, beneficial points, Sheikh. I just want to know, Sheikh, actually, alhamdulillah, we have set up a studio here, like a podcast studio, audio podcast studio, and video podcast studio as well, under Happy Strong Family nonprofit organization. So I'm just a bit curious how to do like moderator role in 3-4 people dialogue or community talk show, both in audio podcast scenario and video podcast scenario. If you could kindly give me some tips.
How do you do that? How do you do the moderation?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you see, there are two things. The first thing is this, people must be given guidelines in terms of how they should operate, right? Number one. The key person there is their anchor presenter. The anchor presenter will determine exactly the kind of questions, how long people are going to speak. And it's very important. What happens sometimes, if there's a group of people, a particular panelist, for example, might feel, listen, I'm not saying anything and nothing. And then what happens, they want to say things that are not even appropriate, right? So I think it's important to discuss it. For example, I know I prepared a document, I hope I can find it, which I've shared with colleagues of mine. And I said in the end, you've got to make sure that when you are part of the panelists, that you engage and listen first before you speak. Listen to what the other person has said, respond to them, then add your viewpoint. For example, if you say something, I would say, you know what, my brother, I agree with you regarding this particular point. But regarding the other point, I disagree with you because of the following reasons. So it requires really an anchor, an individual that is alert, who is widely read, and who understands the strengths of each one of them. And what can be done in terms of moderation, you could moderate it from a perspective of externally, you could moderate it internally, and where each person in the panelists could be given a set of criteria, and that criteria in which you can use to score them. Jazakumullah.
Okay, AMI. AMI?
Yeah, that's it. I'm just right here. Bismillah. Jazakumullah Ustad Idris for your time. Much appreciated. May the Almighty bestow His choicest blessings on you for this wonderful gift that you've imparted to us. My question is, Jazakallah for the recommendation for your particular book. If you had to recommend, or if you had a book that had mostly influenced you in terms of your public speaking, which book would that be? Jazakumullah.
There are, I've read a number of books. There are two books that, I've read. I mean, of course, we did a lot of research on the prophetic methodology. Read a lot of articles and whatnot, right? But the two books that, other than that, or maybe three books that I would recommend are the following. This one here is called, although I may not agree with the philosophy, is called Speak Like Churchill, Stand Like Lincoln. That's one book, right? The other two books are, there's two books here. It's called TED Talks, and the other one is also called Talk Like TED. I find that you can read as many books as possible. The critical thing is to embrace that particular knowledge, as it were. And in the end, the bottom line is this: you cannot be a speaker if you're not an avid reader. You've got to be an avid reader. You've got to know more than what you say to people. You've got to know much more than that to be able to respond to people's questions. Jazakumullah.
Okay, we're going to the next question. We've got about 5 minutes left, folks. So, Mohammed Zahir, you're next.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I got like more than one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I got more than one question which I want to ask is, first of all is, first I have to thank you first, for your time, and it's very beneficial what I have been hearing since 1 hour now. First of all, I understand how essential it is to prepare a talk before speaking, how important it is, how essential it is to prepare the talk. But my question is, first question is, normally when I prepare the talk, or when I speak without preparing, or if someone tell me to speak on the spot, I speak much better than I prepare something. So here I would say, like, perhaps when I prepare the talk, it's like my attention have to be there all the time. like, you know, my point, all my point, and it's quite disturbing to follow my point, what I have to say next, my plan, like, you know, it's quite disturbing. So how do I go about this? When I don't prepare, I speak better. And when I do prepare, it's quite disturbing and I lose track and I lose concentration, etc.
Okay, you know, there are a few things here. Like when I prepare a speech, Alhamdulillah, because now I've been doing it for so long, I don't spend long hours about it. I don't spend that, right? Unless it's a topic in which I need to do some research, where I need to give some statistics. I know, for example, some spontaneous speeches can be better than those that are prepared. Now, the whole thing is this: when you give a prepared speech, does it go well? Do people enjoy it?
You see, perhaps it's my lose of focus. And what I see is when I don't prepare, I would say it comes from the heart, and I think people enjoy it more when I don't prepare.
Yeah.
And when I prepare, sometimes I see they lose focus because I'm losing focus.
No, so therefore, what you need to do, you need to spend a few minutes every day on your talk. And it does not mean because you're preparing a speech, it does not mean it does not have to come from your heart.
Yeah.
You understand? You can prepare the facts there. It's about you in the end. You see, the whole thing is this. I really believe public speaking is an art that you can continue to develop and improve. You understand? So I would recommend that perhaps maybe your mind gets distracted easily, whatever it is. So you need to have the discipline of really getting down to writing it out, researching it, practicing it, doing everything else. Because there's no such thing as, you know what, I don't need to go over this topic anymore. For example, I'll give you an example. If I'm at a function and people tell me, hey, Idris, we want you to be the next speaker, right? I'll be very excited about it, but I will spend a good few moments thinking deeply about what I want to say. Deeply. I'll think of 3 or 4 ideas, and that's enough. And although it is spontaneous, I thought about it deeply. And when you are comfortable giving talks, then giving spontaneous talks becomes easy. So I think you just try the discipline, doing some work every day and seeing how you can improve your speech. All right.
Okay, right. Just for that. My next question is similar to that. When there is I speak better when there is a bigger audience. If, for example, I don't know if it is lack of sincerity, but when the audience is less, there's like 4 or 5 people, I don't speak, you know, as good as I speak when I'm speaking to a big audience. I have more concentration. I feel more comfortable.
Okay, you know what? Yes, a big crowd has its own vibe, right? But the thing is, I don't want to judge your sincerity. But I'll tell you one thing. You know, there is a scholar I know from Syria. During the 1967 war, right? His father was also at that time, his father was a scholar. His father used to go to the mosque and give a talk. And sometimes there was no one there, he still gave a talk. So the son said to the father, why are you speaking? He said, well, I'm speaking here because I'm speaking for Allah, and Allah is here. So the whole thing is this, that in the end, you got to look in your heart and say to yourself, why? Because in the end, you know what, the du'as of people around you, and when you're spoken with the same conviction, I think it's very, very important, inshallah.
That's correct. That's correct. Last thing, and I will be quick.
We've got to move to the next question, brother. Sorry. Right, this is the last question. Shahnawaz Khaja.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. My question is just related. You said in the beginning, you mentioned that you have read more than 2,400 books. So I find it difficult to complete even one in a month. So how do you schedule yourself, or how do you do it?
You see,
Thank you.
I mean, it'd be a lie to say I've read each one exhaustively and whatnot, right? But what I do basically is this, that often if you were to go to my bedroom, I might have 10 or 15 books from the library there, from my library. And what I would do is to make sure, I used to make sure that every day I read for about half an hour or an hour, right? And I realized this. I mean, the first ayah to be revealed is Iqra. It's not fortuitous or by chance that we have that ayah. And I find that when I read a great book or something, it inspires me. It helps me in my speeches also. It makes my speeches more dramatic, more dynamic, and it also builds up my own confidence. And you got to do it. You see, the thing is, you see, if you understand the benefits that accrue from reading, you'll do it no matter how difficult it is. You'll find time for this. Okay.
Fantastic. We have to end now, Sidi Idris.
Okay. Anyway, I want to say Jazakumullah, inshallah, for participating in our program. And we look forward to your, we'll be having programs for the rest of August. And we've got exciting things prepared for September. Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.